Hello everybody and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips, and I hope you had a wonderful 4th of July. I did. As you can tell, I'm a little bit tan. I was up at my lake house and I got a lot of work done up there, but I also got a lot of resting done and laying in the sun and having coffee with friends and going out to dinner with friends, and just a little bit of a balanced life, whereas when I'm home I just tend to work all the time. So anyway, and I did not eat any bad food, just so you know. I pretty much stuck with my good habits while I was there. So hope you guys did the same, and I'll start with just a couple of announcements. First thing, time management. That's the next class, starts next Monday. It's a 2-class series, and this is for people who are wanting to be more organized. If you're a person who is late, cancels things, not doing the things you want to do, always behind and frazzled and all that sort of thing, this is a class for you. And by the way, the reason for learning how to manage your time is not so you can be uber productive. I mean, that's part of it. It's so that you can do the things you want to do and enjoy life. I mean, I do a lot of stuff that you guys probably don't know about. I paint, and I'm into music and dance, and I read, and I belong to a book club. So it's not all about just working, it's about enjoying your life. And one of the reasons why people sometimes don't take care of themselves is because they think they don't have time. I'm going to show you how to have time to do all the things that you want to do. It's how I run my life. I'm going to teach you my secrets of productivity. How about that? All right, and then keep in mind classes for the rest of the year. Food over medicine coaching starts in a couple weeks. Cognitive health and Alzheimer's disease, the microbiome, cannabis, and irritable bowel. Those are coming up. All right, so let's talk about some things that you guys ask about on the YouTube channel that I think are of benefit for all of you to know. One is, a few of you have expressed fear of pressure from other people. Like, I know my doctor is going to pressure me about this, or my family's pressuring me about this. And I'll tell you a great line that has worked for me for years, because people pressure me about things. I mean, there are people who say, I can't believe you don't get a mammogram. You must not be concerned about your health. I'm concerned about your health more than you're concerned about your health. And people trying to talk me out of the way that I eat and all that sort of thing. And here's what I say, and I just say it in all sincerity. You seem to feel really strongly about whatever it is that you're telling me to do. You know I'm really into this health thing, so please round up all the evidence you have. I'm going to take a look at it, and after I've read it, we'll sit down, have coffee, and talk about it. Guess how many of these people come forth with, big folders full of evidence and all that? None. Absolutely none. And I don't do this, I'm not trying to play gotcha with them or anything like that. What I am doing is the decisions that I've made about my health are really well considered, and they're based on evidence. And if I'm going to change my mind about something, the only thing that would make me change my mind is evidence that was really, really convincing. And I'm willing to look at it. And some of you have sent me things, and I've created video clips about it because they were important issues to talk about. So if you just do that, same thing with doctors. If I were seeing a doctor right now who said, I think you should do this test, take that drug, whatever, listen, I'm willing to consider that. Please give me all the evidence showing that that this is a good idea. I'll really look at it very carefully, and then we can talk about it. This is not a tall ask. You're not asking anything unreasonable, but you will find that fewer people will have suggestions for you if you do this on a regular basis. And then another thing I just want to correct for the record, because I think it's very important in terms of the dialogue I'm trying to create here and the way that I think we should be talking in our community and with other people. Somebody referred to me as anti-vax. I know you're anti-vax, the comment started, and I'm not anti-vax, I'm not anti-anything. I'm pro-evidence, that's the thing. And I'm also crystal clear that I think it is very important to have sane, rational discussions in which we can have disagreements about things without resorting to name-calling, smearing, labeling, and that sort of thing. And this is the thing about this whole vaccine issue that has me the most distressed, is the fact that discussion has all but been shut down on a national level. And that should concern you. Usually when people don't want to talk about something, that's not a good sign. And when people can't put forth enough convincing evidence to change people's minds, that's an important sign too. So I just wanted to correct that, because I think it's really, really important that we not attach those kinds of labels. I'm not anti-anything, pro-anything. I don't have feelings about things. Somebody asked me today, how do you feel about supplements? I don't have any feelings about supplements. I think it's important to look at evidence, all right? I don't have any feelings about the lease I signed here. It's a financial document. I read it carefully because it was $1 million worth of rent, right? The new renewal I just signed. So I don't have feelings about it. It's just a financial document that I evaluated based on its merits, all right? So I hope that helps. Okay, so I created today's topic based on requests from you guys who asked about nightshade vegetables. And one of the reasons people are told they shouldn't eat nightshade vegetables. So anyway, I'll tell you what I was able to dig up. Nightshade vegetables are the edible parts of flowering plants that are members of the Solanaceae family. I probably didn't pronounce that right, but it's something like that. The nightshade family includes over 2,000 plants, most of which are not eaten as food, and some of which, like belladonna, are poisonous. It's said that in Romeo and Juliet, the poison that Juliet took to make her appear dead was belladonna, so don't want to eat that. All right. Nightshade vegetables, however, that you do want to eat are white potatoes, tomatoes, eggplant, bell peppers, goji berries, tobacco, don't want to eat that, and tomatillos. Herbs and spices, many of them are derived from nightshades. For example, cayenne pepper, crushed red pepper, chili pepper, and paprika. And then many condiments contain nightshades. So if you like hot sauce, ketchup, tomato-based sauces, or salsa, those come from nightshade vegetables. Nightshade vegetables are staple foods in many cultures, and they've been consumed for centuries without any negative side effects. In spite of this, we have some health professionals that suggest that nightshade vegetables are harmful to certain types of people, for example, people who have autoimmune disease, and some people are saying nobody should eat any nightshades. The subject of controversy is nitrogen-containing substances in nightshades called alkaloids and glycoalkaloids, which are naturally occurring pesticides in these foods. And by the way, if you were to stop eating all of the plant foods that contain some type of natural occurring poison that keeps pests away or allows it to survive in its environment, you would have nothing left to eat because all plants contain some type of toxin like this. The claim is that these types of alkaloids and glycoalkaloids cause inflammation and can cause or worsen conditions like inflammatory bowel disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and other autoimmune diseases. The fact is that many nightshade vegetables contain phytochemicals that have been shown to be anti-inflammatory rather than pro-inflammatory, such as capsaicin. Solanine is one of the glycoalkaloids said to be toxic, but studies in both animals and humans have shown that glycoalkaloids and solanine in potatoes are safe, even when consumed in high doses. And so for those of you who are subscribers to the library, there's a very long article referenced on this topic that might be of interest to you. Some nightshades, like eggplant, peppers, and tomatoes, don't contain any solanine at all. So I did a literature search, and it produced no studies definitively showing that consuming nightshade vegetables caused inflammation or disease. A Google search led to newspaper stories indicating that nightshades might be a problem, and surveys consisting of self-reported data, which are notoriously inaccurate, analyzed by doctors who had a personal interest in the topic because they had arthritis. Again, not very reliable or convincing. Dr. Stephen Gundry's comments about nightshades showed up as a result of the Google search, and Dr. Gundry's site is always a good source of a laugh. If you need a little pick-me-up, it's a good place to visit. So he says that nightshades are, quote, aptly named because the word implies danger, and that alkaloids and nightshades, quote, could inspire people throughout history to consider these as evil plants. Well, just a note, I think it's unlikely that people throughout history knew anything about alkaloids since the technology to identify them didn't exist until recently. So I don't really think people had opinions about nightshades based on glycoalkaloids all these years. On his site, Dr. Gundry says concern may be warranted because alkaloids can include strychnine, caffeine, nicotine, and morphine, which have drug-like effects. Gundry's article includes a lot of statements that are not referenced at all, some statements for which there are citations that are irrelevant or don't actually support his point. But by far, my favorite comment is his statement that tobacco is not the only nightshade that contains nicotine. Many nightshades do, and he says this may be one of the reasons why people become addicted to nightshades and can't stop eating them. It's the nicotine. Now, he kind of acknowledges that you'd have to eat a lot of vegetables to end up in this addicted state, but the only thing I could think about is, gosh, has anybody come in here who is addicted to eggplant, getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go to Kroger to buy another 5 pounds of it in order to have it for breakfast the next morning? Never heard of that happening before. So, like I said, Dr. Gundry is always a source of amusement, if nothing else. Well, the bottom line is there really isn't any research supporting the idea that nightshade vegetables should be avoided. There is an important caveat, however, and that is that people with conditions like arthritis sometimes can identify specific foods to which they have sensitivities. These sensitivities are best identified by adopting an elimination diet where you literally get rid of all foods except a tiny handful that are not known to be reactionary to anybody, and then gradually introduce foods one at a time to see which foods you have a reaction to. Now, our staff has helped a lot of members with elimination diets, and what we find really interesting is that the sensitivities that people identify when they do, and sometimes there aren't any, by the way. Sometimes people find out that their symptoms really aren't related to a food that they should eliminate. But when they do discover sensitivities, a lot of times it's stuff you wouldn't really expect, like black pepper or bananas, okay? And when it is a nightshade vegetable, it's usually one of them, not the entire class. And that's nightshade vegetables, I have to say, in our experience, are not the most likely culprits when people say, I still have a lot of stiffness in my joints even though I'm eating a much better diet. And just a note, I think elimination diets are difficult and time consuming. And so the first thing you want to do before you jump off the cliff for an elimination diet is adopt a health promoting, plant-based, low fat, high fiber diet. Give it some time, and then use the elimination diet if you don't get rid of all your symptoms right away as a means for identifying the culprit, if there actually is one. So nightshades are safe to eat for most people, but I will warn you to be careful. According to at least one doctor, they can be addictive. So once you start eating them, you might not be able to stop, but with the exception of that caveat, okay for people to eat. All right, as usual, if you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it, and I'll be back to you on Thursday with more news.